Thank you, Madam Mayor. This notice of motion regarding the proposed TransLink Marine Drive Corridor Beeline project is in response to the overwhelming public response to the TransLink proposal and in the spirit of seeking good, sustainable transit solutions for the citizens of West Vancouver and all those who may work in or visit our municipality. It applies only to that portion of the proposal that runs from Park Royal to Dunderave. The proposal for rapid bus service along the West Van Marine Drive corridor has been a galvanizing issue in our community since TransLink unveiled their proposal on November 28th to the public and council. That's only 3 months ago, but in that short time frame, grassroots opposition to various aspects of the proposal has grown and solidified. There have literally been a flood of letters and emails to mayor and council that continue to pour in daily. There are more than 1,000 written against submissions to date. The 700-member Ambleside-Dunderave Business Improvement Area doesn't support the proposal. 98% of the attendees at the January 22nd Ambleside-Dunderave Ratepayers Association special meeting on the subject were not in favor. Approximately 250 citizens aged 9 to 90 joined the March on Marine against the Beeline. More than 1,700 people have signed a petition to stop the lane closures, and another 37 have signed an online petition. And the interim results of the district-led consultation, which concluded on February 28th, align with these findings. Over 90% of the speakers at the largest non-election event ever held in West Vancouver spoke against the Beeline through Ambleside and Dunderave. The TransLink proposal depends upon restricted access bus lanes running through our seaside villages of Ambleside and Dunderave, and the realignment of Marine Drive traffic lanes, ostensibly to improve traffic flow, to support higher speed, reliable bus service. This is what defines bus rapid transit and TransLink's version of this, which is to say the Beeline. The problems with this proposal are by now well known. The closure of 2 lanes to general traffic on Marine Drive will worsen congestion and push unwanted traffic into adjacent neighborhoods. Street redesign to accommodate bus stops, lay-bys, and traffic lane alignments will take away high-value on-street parking that's critical to the retail businesses lining Marine Drive. The proposed Dunderave terminus, originally located at Irwin Park Elementary School and subsequently relocated to Marine at 24th, poses an untenable safety risk and pushes unwanted traffic into the adjacent residential neighborhood. In an effort to address these problems and answer questions, district staff launched a public engagement effort last month that included an online survey, a series of smaller group meetings, and a community meeting attended by some 700 people on February 21st. Critically, there was no new information presented at these sessions to answer questions about ridership, the key to justifying addition of the new service in West Van. The public consensus opinion based on actual observation of empty buses, a YouTube video on this has received almost 16,000 hits, is that there is no business case for Beeline in Ambleside and Dunderave, and TransLink hasn't been able to refute this. Moreover, TransLink has been unable to demonstrate how 2 lanes of traffic can be squeezed into 1 lane without causing massive traffic congestion, the issue that sparked the community protests in the first place. Marine Drive is, after all, one of only 2 thoroughfares traversing West Vancouver from east to west, and it only has 4 lanes through Ambleside and Dunderave. Regarding building for the future, the modest growth targets set out in our newly adopted OCP are not sufficient to support the transit capacities that Beeline service can offer. In this sense, it would be better to build Beelines in communities along transit corridors that are expected to grow significantly in the future, which is to say, not West Van. The prospect of running articulated buses at 20 or 30% capacity for up to 19 hours a day is not an environmentally sustainable green solution. And even a dramatic shift in modal split with fewer drivers and more transit users won't be enough to make the numbers work for Beeline. But having said all this, make no mistake that West Vancouverites are not opposed to better transit. It just so happens that what may be a good idea elsewhere, that is the idea of bus rapid transit, isn't the type of transit solution that is a good fit in Ambleside and Dunderave. What is also evident is that the Beeline debate has sparked a broader community conversation on traffic and transit that needs to be heard and built into future discussions around development in West Vancouver. To this end, I plan to bring forward another notice of motion in the coming weeks, seeking to reestablish a transportation committee, perhaps more aptly named a mobility committee, to provide a clearinghouse for these issues. Last week, when this notice of motion was set down for discussion today, Councillors Cameron and Gambioli took the opportunity to raise a series of questions which I'm obliged to answer. I'll do that in a moment, but first I want to provide some background on the resolutions proposed tonight. The first item says, work with TransLink and the owners of Park Royal Shopping Centre and the Squamish First Nation to identify possible alternative alignments, bus lay-by locations for a Beeline terminus option at Park Royal Shopping Centre. The idea of focusing on the Park Royal terminus is informed by the evidence that none of the currently proposed termini, the other currently proposed termini at 24th Street or 21st Street, are deemed acceptable. In both those cases, TransLink requires restricted access BAT lanes as a precondition for reliable rapid bus service, a requirement that is deemed to add to Marine Drive traffic congestion and traffic impacts on adjacent streets and loss of on-street parking spaces to provide for bus stops and laybys. And in both cases, buses will be running through residential areas, again, up to 19 hours a day. Park Royal is designated as a transit exchange in the INSTEP, that's the Integrated North Shore Transportation Planning Project, and as a major terminus in the TransLink frequent transit network. The addition of a new North Shore Beeline service offers the opportunity to co-locate Blue Bus and Coast Mountain Bus services for transit user convenience and to facilitate transit transfers at Park Royal. Now, I should note that the Park Royal option does not preclude the future consideration of possible Beeline extensions into Ambleside should the right conditions arise and should ridership numbers support the business case. And in fact, this evening, after this motion is debated or as part of the process, there will be another motion talking to that particular point. On my second point, convene a meeting with council representatives from TransLink, Blue Bus, and Ambleside Dunderave Business Improvement Association to review Beeline detailed design plans, excluding restricted bus access lanes that could yield transit efficiency gains. This is an attempt to salvage some of the street redesign work already completed by TransLink on the Park Royal to Dunderave alignment to help smooth flow for buses and general traffic. 3, identify order of magnitude costs and potential sources of funding for improvements identified through the above item. Since filing this notice of motion, staff have advised that no funds will be available from TransLink for any road improvements beyond the western terminus. That is, from Park Royal to Dunderave, if Park Royal becomes the designated Beeline terminus. TransLink has told West Van that there are many other communities standing in line for Beeline funding if West Van doesn't take up the current offer. But I would challenge TransLink to prove that the incremental cost of providing Beeline service beyond a Park Royal terminus would be enough to fully fund a Beeline elsewhere. It serves both TransLink's and West Van's interests, both if funding is intelligently applied to road improvements that enhance the efficiency of the current bus service. But if TransLink cannot agree, West Van will have to explore perhaps going it alone to fund improvements beyond Park Royal from other sources, which could include budget reallocations, future DCCs, and possible community amenity contribution allocations. Now that the questions raised last week, Councillor Cameron didn't provide me with a list of questions as I requested, so I will rely on my review of the video transcript of the February 25th meeting to provide my response, and I'll try and go through these quickly, just as a matter of record. Question 1, are you aware of the online survey? I answered yes. Question 2, are you aware of the event scheduled on Wednesday, February 27th by Capilano Student Union regarding the Beeline? Answer, I had heard about this event but wasn't provided with any details regarding time and place. Question 3, people participating in the online and telephone surveys in CapU event deserve to know whether you are considering their points of view. By putting forward the notice of motion, doesn't this signal that you are not open to these points of view? And at the time I answered, of course, I'm open to hearing their points of view, and the notice of motion does not in any way exclude consideration of this. Fourth question, did you have a report from staff regarding previous consultation processes to date? The answer is no. Question 5, did you come up with the wording of this motion? The answer is yes. Question, did you have assistance from staff? And the answer is I wrote the notice of motion all by myself. Legislative Services offered suggestions regarding formatting and minor grammatical adjustments. Question 7, did you inquire whether staff had already been talking with Park Royal about alternative alignments and lay-by locations and what transpired with your meeting with Park Royal? No, I didn't inquire of staff. Question 8, is it the intent of the notice of motion to rule out the terminus for the Beeline anywhere else other than Park Royal? And my answer is the wording of the proposed resolution doesn't specifically rule out other options, although that is implicit in the preambulatory clauses. Question 9, what is the notice of motion asking? It seems to suggest that we start studying the Park Royal terminus. My answer is the wording of the proposed resolution is clear as to the ask. Question 10, do you know if there have been any study of the Park Royal terminus? My answer is no studies have been presented to this member of council. Question 11, is it the intent to rule out 21st Street, 24th Street, or any other terminus other than Park Royal? And the wording of the proposed resolution doesn't specifically rule out other options, although that is implicit in the preambulatory clauses. Question 12, are we going to vote on March 4th to study Park Royal and keep all other termini on the table? My answer is the proposed resolution specifically refers to work required to identify alignment options for a Park Royal terminus. Is council going to be ruling out 24th, 24th, or other termini on March the 4th? The proposed resolution doesn't make mention of ruling out any other termini location, although it is implicit in the preambulatory clauses. So I should make the distinction, in case you haven't captured this, is that all the whereas causes are the preambulatory causes, and the resolution are the actual resolutions that were proposed. Question, is it your intention to rule out bus priority lanes west of Park Royal? My answer is yes. Question 15, is it the intention of the notice of motion to rule out parking loss? Answer, the resolution doesn't specifically address the issue of parking loss, although it is implicit in the preambulatory clauses. And did you circulate your notice of motion to council beforehand? And my answer is a draft notice of motion was reviewed by Councillors Thompson and Soprovich prior to filing. And then Councillor Cameron concluded his questions with the statement that he intends to propose an amendment to the notice of motion to rule out termini at 24th and 21st, rule out the bat lanes, and rule out parking loss. And to a certain extent, or in a certain way, that's covered in the supplementary motion we'll be talking about later. Questions from Councillor Gambioli. Did you make any effort to discuss the notice of motion with the Mayor, Council, or the CAO? The answer is yes. I spoke with some members of Council, Thompson and Soprovich. Question, because it's already going to happen, that is the Park Royal terminus, the first item in the resolution is a moot point, isn't it? My answer is that the district mayor and council have not formally endorsed the Park Royal terminus, so the point is not moot, in my opinion. Question, do you think the timing of the notice of motion is showing a lot of disrespect for, completely undermines public input? My answer, the notice of motion is set down for debate on March the 4th, today. Public consultation concluded on February 28th. And question, have you already made up your mind? And my answer is my own opinions align with the majority of West Van residents who have written to Mayor and Council and attended the various gatherings organized by the district and other community groups. And the final question will be through this. Do you not think that your comments to the media that the results are already in undermines the public engagement process that our own community engagement has tasked us to work on? Well, the comments published in the Vancouver Sun on February 25th align with the interim results of the public engagement process presented to Council on the next day on February 26th and public opinion voiced in other community forums. Regarding the CEC, a committee of which Councillor Gambioli is the chair, appointed by Mayor Booth, I understand the majority of the members did not endorse all aspects of the engagement plan presented to staff. In summary, I didn't find Councillor Cameron's and Gambioli's line of questioning helpful to the understanding of the proposed resolutions. Rather, their questions were personal in nature, accusing me of undermining public input, being evasive. To that, I would say I deferred my answers to today out of respect for the district consultation process, which was then in its final days of community outreach. I would also say respectfully that I'm just doing my job, listening to my constituents and doing what I can to address their concerns. So that concludes my opening remarks.